Hey guys, this is Chef 2K here. Thank you and welcome to the show. My name is Chef 2K and you're watching the Hess Sports Podcast. This is a show where I talk about the NFL and college football and the NBA. Today's topics will be primarily the NFL and the NCAA. When we get closer to the NBA season, that'll be more. I'll start previewing the NBA, but for now it's just going to be NFL and college. And then if I have time, I might look at some high school sports, like high school football. But welcome to the show. This is episode 1 of the Hess Sports Podcast, and I hope you guys like it and subscribe. But and I understand, and the reason why basketball and football are the only two sports is because those are the two sports that I know the most about. I don't know a whole lot about soccer, and I don't know a whole lot about baseball, and I'm not going to give you information on stuff that I don't know too much about. I do know a lot about football and basketball, and I'll try and give you my opinions. Now, I understand that you may not always agree with me, and I'm fine with that, but I want to keep it respectful, as respectful as possible. I will never give you information without backing it up with sources, and you can use it however you want. Just be courteous, kind, and respectful with it in the comments. One of the things that I think separates me from the rest is that I try to keep my biases out of the argument. I root for the Oregon State Beavers. They're not very good, I know that. So when I say that they're going to be better this year, I'm not saying that because I'm a fan. I'm saying that because year 2s under new coaches are known not always to be better than year 1s. It may not translate into wins, but you might see a more competitive team. You know the games are closer than they were last year. So that being said, if I'm talking about your team in a negative light, please understand it's because of the way that they are playing the way they are, or why they need to make a change so they can improve. I don't want anyone to fail because I've played football before, and maybe not in college or in the pros, but I know what it's like to go through ups and downs. I think any league is better when every team is good. The bottom feeders aren't bad because they're bad. I mean, there are teams that are, but I like it when it's competitive. It's not just blowouts after blowouts after blowouts. The good teams are good because the other teams were good also. For example, when I was in junior in high school, the varsity went 8-1 through the regular season. It's pretty good, right? Well, if you look at how we won those games, it was a miracle that we even won some of those games. And then in the playoffs, we were to play the Corvallis Spartans, who came in as the 16th seed with a 5-6 record, and they beat our team 42-28 because they were more prepared and they wanted it more. Now they lost in the next round, but they proved that they were the better team. We had to go through the first game. I remember we were playing Wilsonville, up in Wilsonville, and they lost, and we won 41-35, which is not good. It's good to get the win, but that's not good football. That's not they're a good team, but that's not how you want to win. But anyway, the topics. So the way that this is gonna go is I'm gonna start out by talking about the NFL. All right, it's just early enough so I can start previewing Week 1. I'm gonna give you predictions of who I think is gonna be good, and I'm gonna give you my Super Bowl prediction. and who I think is gonna finish first, and the reason why. I've got the NFL schedule. I got the NFL schedules pulled up right here, and why I think that they're going to win, and then I will also I will then predict the week 1 action, and then the next episode, which will be next week or whenever next week's episode will be, I will review week 1 and then preview week 2, and I'm going to go based off eye test, because eye test, in my opinion, is better. I think it's better. I think the eye test can tell you more than the stats do, although stats sometimes can back it up. But I just think that I think the eye test is better. And then once that's all done, then I'm going to move on to the college football, and because week 1 already concluded, I'm going to go ahead and review that weekend's best games, or that week's most impactful games, and my thoughts on each team, and from those games, and what my thoughts are. And then week 2, and then I'll preview week 2, and I'll give you guys the big games and why I think they're important. It's different in the NCAA game, because every game counts. Not to say that every game doesn't count in the NFL, but you can finish with a pretty bad record. You can finish with a 9-7 record in the NFL and still make the playoffs. In the college football game, you can't get worse. You can't lose too much. So every week, in my opinion, in college football is super important. And I think week 1 is one of the most important weeks of the season, because I think it can either make or break the teams. Anyway, and then I'm also going to try and give you guys scores. Now this is just for fun for me. I'm going to try and predict the scores as well of these games, and what you guys can expect. All right. So we're going to get underway with the NFL now. I think last year was a pretty good season. There are a lot of teams improved last year. The Browns went from 0-16 the previous year to 7-8-1, which is pretty crazy considering the fact of where they've been. The Colts improved even though they lost Andrew Luck. Now I don't think it's gonna be, people are gonna write off the Colts, but I think Jacoby Brissett's a pretty good quarterback. He's not gonna be Andrew Luck, but I think he's capable of. I think he's more than capable of handling the offense. When Tom Brady went out for his suspensions, and Jimmy Garoppolo, tweaked his ankle or whatever happened, Jacoby Brissett came in and won one game for them, and he looked pretty dang good too. You had the Houston Texans getting back to form. Deshaun Watson's finally healthy. Pittsburgh, even though they lost 2 of the best players, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, I think that will be beneficial to them, even though you guys might not see it. I think Seattle got better. I think Seattle improved, even though they weren't supposed to make the playoffs last year. I like their moves that they made. I think. A lot of teams have gotten better. The one team that I'm most concerned about is the Arizona Cardinals. I believe that they were they were one of the worst teams last year. I remember watching them, and back-to-back weeks they gave up the same score. I think they played Denver, and then the week before they played someone, and they lost by the same. They lost by the same score. Back-to-back weeks, or I can't remember if it was back-to-back weeks, but they got blown out quite a bit. And they brought in Cliff Kingsbury, who's coming from Texas Tech, which kind of worries me. I mean, will it work? I don't know. It didn't translate into many wins for Texas Tech. Now they did play in the Big 12, which has Oklahoma and Texas in it, but I think there's a lot to be desired. I think Cliff Kingsbury left a lot to be desired in Texas Tech. I think they underachieved quite often, and they had Patrick Mahomes, and they didn't win very much, So we'll see. Kyler Murray looks like hit and miss right now. He struggled. He's had his struggles, and he's had his good moments. So we'll see. The Cardinals have to protect Kyler Murray. You can't just you can't just have him running around the field. I mean, he can run, but NFL defenses are much faster than in college. He's not going to be able to break away and scramble and pick up first downs like he could in college. Now he will. I mean, not to say that he won't be able to, but defenses are much faster and just better. They've got better coaching, and their angles are much better in the pro game than in college. And so I think that's where it lies. Their defense probably is not going to be very good. They called the retirement home for a reason, because they got one of the oldest rosters in the league. Or, you got an aging Larry Fitzgerald who's at the end of his career. They brought on Terrell Suggs. We'll have to see how that goes. He's in his 17th year, I believe, and I think this is the last year. We'll have to see. Cliff Kingsbury's offense hasn't looked too impressive, as I said before, but we'll have to see about that. I don't think Carolina will be that impressive. Cam Newton is injured again. He tweaked something, I think, this off season, and although I do think Will Grier has potential to be pretty good. Will Grier comes from West Virginia, and he was a Heisman Trophy candidate last year, and they won quite a few games too. They didn't get to the playoffs, but they looked impressive under him. I think Cam Newton. I think the Carolina Panthers' success is predicated on Cam Newton's ability to run, but I don't. The one area that I think I need to see Cam Newton improve is passing. He's never been a very good passer. I think he's in the 50. He doesn't have a high completion percentage most years. His rookie season was the anomaly. That's probably the best season of his career. I mean, I could still see them being a sleeper. That is if they play right, if they play the right way. I think Cam Newton's got the weapons around him to kind of alleviate some of that, so he doesn't have to run and take those hits as often as he needs to. And I think he also needs to start learning when the play's over, because he's more important to their offense when he's playing than when he's on the sideline injured. And I think this is a prove it year for Cam Newton, because they drafted Will Grier pretty high. I don't think it was a first rounder, but you have to think that they drafted Will Grier in case Cam Newton struggles. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles will be pretty good this year. I think I think Carson Wentz can stay healthy, hopefully. You know, and I like their additions. They brought back Deshaun Jackson, which is a good move. You know, their defense is still pretty elite, even though they got. I think for the most part last year they were pretty banged up, and they just didn't have. And it's the second year, you know, they won the Super Bowl, and Super Bowl hangover is real. You know, the Seattle Seahawks had it happen to them. Philadelphia Eagles certainly had it happen to them. The Carolina Panthers certainly had it happen to them. You know, the Rams I think the Rams will be the first seed in the NFC. The Saints will be the second seed. I like what the Saints did. I think the third seed will belong to the Philadelphia Eagles. The fourth seed I think will go to Chicago. I put for the wild cards spots. I chose Atlanta, but I think because now that Ezekiel Elliott has signed a deal with the Cowboys, and I think he's the reason for their success. I'm not saying that Dak Prescott's not a good quarterback, but I think Dak Prescott's success. I think Dak Prescott is more efficient when Ezekiel Elliott's out there, and so I think Cowboys could be that fifth seed. Now they could be in that fourth seed. I could definitely see them being in that fourth seed, or they couldn't because that'd mean they have to win the division. But I could have Philadelphia winning the division. But maybe the fifth seed, you know, just behind Philadelphia Eagles, and then Atlanta. We'll have to see. And then I have Seattle at sixth. I love what Seattle did. They brought in Jadeveon Clowney this previous weekend, and they drafted new receivers and traded for some linemen, which they need. Players to watch this season for the NFL, I think, is Baker Mayfield, and we'll see how he does in year 2. Will he take a step back, or will he have continued success? That's the big question. They got a lot of optimism in the Cleveland Browns locker room, and that's good. But we'll have to see how he performs. I think they're going to be pretty good. I'm predicting 11 wins, 10 to 11 wins for the Browns. They'll be in that wild card, I think. It could be in that wild card, you know. I actually think they could even win the division. You know, Pittsburgh's gonna miss Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, but I think they'll still be pretty good, and I think they'll make the wild card. In the AFC, first seed I have New England because of their schedule. I don't know if you guys have seen. I don't know how many of you guys have actually seen the NFL. Seen how many? I don't know if many of you guys have actually seen who New England plays to start out the season before their bye, but it's ridiculous. I mean, they won the Super Bowl, so I mean it's gonna, but they got such an easy schedule. They start out with the Steelers, and then that's the first game of the season for them. Then they have the Jets at home. Then they go on the road and face the Redskins. Then they go play the Jets. They got the Ravens, which I think is one of the. They got Steelers, Dolphins, Jets, Bills, Redskins, Giants, and then Redskins, Giants, and then Jets. And I think that's before their bye. No, their bye ends with them versus the Giants, I think. And that's a pretty easy schedule. They could lose to Pittsburgh, but I see the New England Patriots before their bye. I could easily see them being either 8-1, like win, or no. They could be either undefeated before their bye, or they have that one loss to Pittsburgh. and then they really don't have, and that could be, and that might do it right there, because if you know anything about New England, I mean, they don't always have the best team, but when they get that momentum going, they're hard to beat. Kansas, so for that reason, I got New England as the first seed. I got Kansas City as the second seed. I mean, I don't see anyone being able to stop the Chiefs other than the Patriots, which the Patriots do have them on the schedule, which Kansas City Chiefs are coming to Foxborough, which is always tough. So I can honestly see the Chiefs losing there, and then I have the third seed, the Houston Texans, and then I have the Browns in the fourth spot, winning their division. And then for the fifth seed, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. In the sixth seed, I have the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans why is Tennessee Titans? Because they made the playoffs last year, and I can honestly see them taking another step. Sleepers the sleeper teams that I have in the AFC are the Jaguars. We'll have to see how they're do under Nick Foles. They got a new quarterback in Nick Foles, who came from the Eagles. I've got the Raiders. We'll have to see how improved they are, but they could be a dark horse if they show improvement. I got the Baltimore Ravens. We'll have to see how Lamar Jackson fares in that new offense that they designed for him. Will it be and see how much he improves. And then I got the Denver Broncos just because of their defense, and then Buffalo Bills. I don't know if you guys realize this, but last year Buffalo they weren't the best team, but if you watched the Buffalo Bills last year, or if you looked at their scores, I mean they got blown out, but I feel like whenever they won last year, they also, when they won last year, it was a blowout. And when they lost, and when they won, it was a close game. You see, they beat the Raiders 34-14 last year. They beat. Hold on. They didn't blow too many teams out, actually. But I think you guys can kind of see what I'm talking about. When I felt like whenever they won, it was a blowout. Yeah, see, they beat the Vikings 27-6, and then they won a close game versus the Titans, but then they blew out the Jets 41-10. They beat the Jags. They beat the and their defense. And I think they have a good defense, and I think Josh Allen will show some improvement. He's a raw player, but I think he will be pretty good. And for the Super Bowl, I think the Patriots will again represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and then I have the Saints finally breaking through. The lesson with the Patriots, anytime you say that they're going to lose, in my opinion, I feel like whenever I say I want them to lose, or whenever you hear like, is their dynasty over, and people start doubting them, and they always find a way in the Super Bowl. So now I never bet against the Patriots. I'm not a Patriots fan, but I can't bet against it. But I've learned my lesson, So that's why I'm having New England in there. Now Kansas City could break through and get to the Super Bowl, but I just don't know how you pick against New England. I mean, as long as Tom Brady's the quarterback for the Patriots, I don't see how they lose. So players to watch this year. Oh, sleepers in the NFC East. Sleepers in the NFC. I say Minnesota just because of their defense and they got a good team. I say the Dallas Cowboys, which I have now in the 5th spot, but because before I made the script they didn't have Ezekiel Elliott, so I kind of held him out. But I think Atlanta will go there as a sleeper. I think the Green Bay Packers could be a sleeper team. You know, like that dark horse that could sneak their way in there. And they got the Panthers, even though I said that I don't trust them. But who knows? They could prove me wrong and get in there. As far as week 1, to start out week 1, we got Green Bay versus Chicago tomorrow, and I think Green Bay wins. Now Chicago's definitely got a better team, but the Bears have a new defensive coordinator because Vic Fangio took the job at Denver, and we'll have to see how that defense adjusts. Now they got Khalil Mack still, and they got Eddie Jackson, and they got still in Akeem Ayers or that. But I can see Green Bay beating them 24-22. That's my pick. I think Green Bay wins this because I don't think we'll have to see how it all depends though on whether or not they how the defense how much improvement the defense has or how much progress the defense made over the offseason for the Bears. And then we got Titans-Browns. I think the Browns beat the Titans there, 24-17. This is a big year for the Browns, as I said. They've got a lot of optimism, rightly so, because they got a good team. They got Odell Beckham Jr., they got Baker Mayfield, they got Nick Chubb, they got Jarvis Landry, and then they also upgraded the defense. So I think they're going to be better this year. I don't think they'll get very far in the playoffs if they make it, because not a lot of people, not a lot of teams, not a lot of players on the team have a lot of experience. But I think that the Browns beat the Titans week 1, 24-17. And then we got the Ravens versus the Dolphins. Now I don't believe in the Dolphins, so I think last year the Ravens opened the season with a 47-6 victory over the Buffalo Bills. Last year, 47-3 on the Buffalo Bills. And I think they can do that again. I think I have the Ravens beating the Dolphins 46-17. And then because I like the Ravens defense and their offense. We'll have to see though. And then we got the Vikings at the Falcons. I've got the Vikings are at home. I think the Vikings beat the Falcons 30-17 just because of their defense and just because of the defense, and I think their offense. We'll have to see how Kirk Cousins fares, but I think the Vikings win at home. And then the Bills face the Jets. I think the Bills beat the Jets just simply based on their defense. The Bills. I think the Bills might. I think the Bills might. They're not going to be a good team, but I think they're definitely going to show some improvement. The Jets are still adjusting, I think, under the new head coach. I think who's the head coach of the Jets now? It's Mike McCarthy, right? It's the Jets head coach. Adam Gase, who didn't do so good as the Dolphins, so I don't believe in Adam Gase, obviously. And then so I say the Bills beat them 17-14. The Jets got the right pieces, but I don't think their coach is a very good hire. I mean, the Dolphins brought Adam Gase in from the Chicago Bears, who went 6-10, and then they went 6-10 last year under Case, and they kept going, and they went 6-10 last year also. And I think they could go 6-10 this year, but I think the Bills beat them there. And then the Jets are 0-1. Then we got the Eagles taking on the Redskins. I think the Eagles are going to be better this year. I think they'll be back this year. So I say the Eagles win 30-21. Just simply based on their experience and the kind of players they have on defense and their offense. Redskins, I don't think Redskins are gonna be very impressive. I think Redskins could be one of the worst teams this year. Improvement, yes, but do you believe in the Redskins? Do you really believe in Jay Gruden? I don't. So I see the Eagles win 30-21, and then the Rams take on the Panthers. We'll have to see how Cam Newton does or looks. They said he's questionable. He might play, he might not. But we'll have to see how he does. You know, if he plays, will he be taking it easy, or will he wing it? I think the Rams will beat them, though. I think the Panthers will have enough for the Rams because the Rams are still pretty good. I say the Rams beat the Panthers on the road, 34-17. Chiefs are going on the road. They're taking on the Jaguars. I think the Chiefs have too much. I think the Chiefs will have too much firepower for the Jags. I like what the Chiefs did on defense. They brought in the Honey Badger Tyrann Mathieu, and they brought in a better defensive lineman. So I think their defense is going to be better there. I think they'll just have too much firepower on the offensive side. You know, they got Patrick Mahomes. They now got LaShawn McCoy. They got Tyreek Hill back. They got Sammy Watkins. They got Travis Kelce. Weapons all across the board. So I say that Chiefs beat the Jaguars 38-17. The Chargers will be taking on the Colts. I think Chargers beat the Colts 20-17 for the simple fact that I like what the Colts. For the simple fact that I think the Colts, while they're gonna miss luck, I don't think that they'll be. I don't think the world will fall. You know, I like Frank Reich. I think he did a lot of good things last year with the Colts. You know, and I think people. I don't think they'll beat the Chargers in LA, but I do think the Colts will be good. So, I just think the Chargers will beat them 20-17. You know, Chargers got a good defense and they got a good offense. So I said Chargers win 20-17, a low-scoring game. Then the Giants take on the Cowboys. Rivalry. This is a division match, and the Giants and Cowboys are always tough games. The Giants may not have much, but I think the Cowboys. But I think the Cowboys and Giants it's always a good game. So I see the Cowboys win 17-16. I like their defense. I like the Cowboys' defense and their offense now that they have Ezekiel Elliott back. And I think they win 17-16. And I like Saquon Barkley for the Giants. But that's about it. Then you got the Lions taking on the Cardinals. I don't think that, as I said before, I don't think the Cardinals are going to be very impressive. So I think the Lions get an easy 24-6 victory. The Bucks will be taking on the 49ers. I picked the Bucks at home because of Bruce Arians. I think that's a good hire. I think they'll use. I think Bruce Arians will use their personnel better. Will be able to use their personnel better then hey, we'll be Ellie. Hey, we'll use their personnel better than Dirk Carter is. So I say that the Bucks get a win there, 24-20. 49ers still have questions. It depends on their defense. They got the offense, but I don't think that they have the defense to stop the Bucks. So I say the Bucks get the win there. Then the Patriots are taking the Steelers on in Foxborough. I think the Patriots win 35-30, just for the simple fact that the Patriots, and it's extremely difficult to win on the. It's extremely difficult to beat the Patriots in Foxborough, and I don't I think it's a high-scoring game. It's going to be a shootout. Steelers aren't going to have enough. I mean, they still have Juju Smith-Schuster and James Conner and Ben Roethlisberger and all the people on defense, but I just think that the Patriots will just make more plays than the Steelers will. So I say 35-30, Pats. Then the Seahawks take on the Bengals, and we're not expecting too much from the Bengals. So I say the Seahawks win 25-14. Could be more, could be higher, but I think the Seahawks are just much. I think the Seahawks are better than the Bengals. The Texans are taking on the Saints. I think the Saints. I think this is going to be a shootout. I have 45-38 Saints. The Texans have the offense. They still got Deshaun Watson. They traded for someone to replace Arian Foster. Can't remember who, but they hold on. Who did they trade? And the Saints still got Drew Brees and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, and they got defense. But I think it's just gonna be a shootout. So 45-38 Saints, and then the Raiders are taking on the Broncos. Now I have the Raiders beating the Broncos for the simple fact that I don't trust Joe Flacco. I'm not sure how many of you guys feel about Joe Flacco, but I don't believe in him. You know, he always does good at the beginning of the season, and then the second year, and then midway through the season, he kind of crashes and burns. Although I wouldn't bet against him in the playoffs. You know, he's always played good in the playoffs, but regular season, not so much. And I like the Raiders. They're gonna show some improvement. And I think the Raiders will beat the Broncos 20-17. So the teams I got winning week 1 is Green Bay, Browns, Ravens, Vikings, Bills, Eagles, Rams, Chiefs, Chargers, Cowboys, Lions, Bucks, Pats, Seahawks, Saints, and Raiders. We'll see how they do next. We'll see how my predictions fare. But we'll see how my predictions fare. But that's the NFL for now. That concludes the NFL segment. Now I will be moving on to the college football. Week 1's already gone underway, and just some key thoughts before I get into my game analysis. Clemson looks unbeatable, even though Trevor Lawrence threw 2 picks. Alabama only put up 42 points against Duke, or I think Oregon was ranked too high, and it showed. Tennessee struggled, and Pac-12 does not look great. Clemson looks unbeatable. You know, they got the defense again, and their offense looks unbeatable. Travis Etienne is a beast. I think Travis Etienne is the best running back in the league, or in college football. And I just don't see how anyone beats them. They got Texas A&M coming up this week, but I don't think that's going to be very close. You know, I mean, I'm giving them I think it's going to be a close game, but I think they did themselves no favors by Texas A&M did themselves no favors by that lineman who said that they were guaranteeing the upset, and that's not very. I don't think that's a very good idea, because in my opinion, Joe Namath is really lucky that the Jets actually won the Super Bowl. You know, I mean, because he guaranteed the Super Bowl AFC would beat the NFC, and they did. But that's pretty good. That it's pretty fortunate that it worked out that way. So I think Clemson is now going to be more focused, and I think it's going to be a close game. I think Clemson wins 31-28, but I don't know. I just think I just think that you need to keep your mouth shut. You know. Don't give the other team don't give them whiteboard material, you know, because it only fuels it. Oregon was ranked too high. I don't think that they were. I don't think Oregon deserved to be ranked 11, as high as 11, because they didn't finish last year ranked. They weren't ranked last year. They didn't finish ranked last year, and because I didn't think they were very impressive. Now they had that stretch where they started winning, but they also had their struggles. This is a team that last year, you know, had a big lead versus Stanford, and Stanford beat them. Still lost. You know, they still can't beat Washington State. They beat Washington, but they can't seem to beat Washington State now. Could they this year? Yes, but Washington State still looks like they got a pretty good quarterback again. You know, they lost to Utah and they got blown out by Arizona, which is not good. And then they only beat Michigan State in the bowl game 7-6. Which is not all that impressive, and they didn't finish ranked. And Auburn, I think Oregon showed us why. You know, I know people will say, well, Adam, Oregon was missing some of their top receivers. Yeah, that's true, but they were up 21-6. Okay, they were up 21-6. There's no excuse to lose that game. If you're any team, if you lose and you're up 21-6, that's not good. That's horrible. I mean, and it's the same. It's looked just like the Stanford game. You know, they looked really good, and then what do you know? Stanford's climbed all the way back and they beat them. I think Mario Cristobal did themselves I don't think the coaching staff did them any favors either. But I think Oregon's. I think that it's been the same play calling. I think as long as I don't know. I mean, Oregon had their time management skills, their clock management skills were not very good, and it showed. They blew 2 timeouts in a row at the end of the third or the fourth, and they blew like apparently they blew a timeout on the first play of the drive of the game, which isn't good. Other than the first quarter, Oregon did not look very good. You know, the Auburn's defense turned it up, and they started playing like Auburn, or they started to show why they had a good defense. And I mean, I think Oregon got conservative. They took their foot off they got comfortable, but that's still no excuse to lose to a team whose coach is on the hot seat. You know, Auburn wasn't good, and Auburn may not even deserve to be ranked. You know, they lost to Alabama. They got blown up by Alabama last year. I think they lost. Who did Auburn lose to last year? And they didn't look. And this is a team that last year wasn't supposed to be very good. This year their coach was on the hot seat. They beat Washington last year, but Washington didn't do too much. They lost to LSU, beat a bad Arkansas team, struggled with Southern Miss, lost to Mississippi State, lost to Tennessee, beat a bad Ole Miss team. They did beat Texas A&M, I suppose, but they lost to Georgia. They got blown out by Georgia, and then they lost 52-21 to Alabama. So they weren't exactly a very impressive team either last year. So maybe they were ranked too high, but they still got the win nonetheless. And then Tennessee struggled. Florida State struggled. Florida State looks bad. Florida State and Tennessee look bad. They're not. I mean, Willie Taggart, I don't believe. I was talking with a guy at work yesterday, and we both agreed that we both didn't think that Willie Taggart was a very good coach. He was great for South Florida, but I think he's a little in over his head, though. You know, he can recruit like hell. He can recruit pretty well, but he can't seem to put the pieces together. They looked like world beaters, just like Oregon versus Boise State, and then Boise State came back and beat them. Tennessee struggled all game with Georgia State. They took a good lead, also I believe, and Georgia State and they struggled with Georgia State. And they lost, obviously. But you can't do that. Jeremy Pruitt, I feel bad for Jeremy Pruitt, but I don't feel bad for Florida State. You know, I don't think they hired the right guy. I think they got caught up in the fact that Billy Taggart knows the Florida area, and they thought he could recruit him, and they would be better. Because Jimbo Fisher jumped ship to Texas A&M, and I think they thought they could get, and they thought they got a steal by hiring Billy Taggart. I'm personally not seeing it. I think Billy Taggart's Florida State Seminoles will miss another bowl season, and that's unheard of for Florida State. You know, I think they had like a 30 plus bowl game streak of appearing in a bowl game, which is unheard of. But they didn't get a bowl game last year under Willie Taggart's first year, which is understandable because he's a first year coach. But second year, I think he's showing why he struggled at Oregon. And he did show Oregon. I think it's the same. I think he's the same coach he was at Oregon. He's not gonna win you. He's not gonna win you 11 games. He's not gonna win you 12 games. He's gonna probably finish around 7 or 5 or 5 and 7 or 6 and 6. And you're not going to go anywhere with Willie Taggart. That's unfortunate, but I think that's the truth. Florida State should have beat the brakes off of Boise State, and kept it on the gas pedal. But Willie Taggart, I don't think Willie Taggart's the right coach for them. But now Boise State is a pretty good team. They won 11 games last year, and I know you'll say that they're a group of 5 teams. They're a group of 5 team, and Boise State's an FBS team. In my opinion, though, an 11-2 record is better than a 5-7 record, no matter who it is. Tennessee had no business losing to Georgia State because Georgia State only won 3 games last year, and Tennessee is much better than that. Should have been much better than that. But Boise State won 11 games last year, but they didn't look so good in the first half versus Florida State. But then obviously you know what happened. Florida State lost because they couldn't stop the Boise State Broncos. Michigan, I thought Michigan didn't look so good versus Middle Tennessee State. I think that should be a red flag for them. If you're Michigan, because you're supposed to beat Michigan is supposed to beat Ohio State. They're supposed to. Jim Harbaugh is supposed to. I think this year is make or break for Jim Harbaugh. If he can't beat Ohio State if Ryan Day somehow beats Michigan, which I think Ohio State is going to beat Michigan this year once again. I thought Ohio State looked more impressive than Michigan. I thought Ohio State looked more impressive versus Florida Atlantic than Michigan did versus Middle Tennessee State. And that should be alarming for you guys. That should be alarming. I mean, it shouldn't have. Yeah, they won 40-21, but that's too high. Middle Tennessee State kept it pretty close. The second half into 27-14, and that's not. I don't know. You guys should be worried. Your defense doesn't look that impressive. Your offense looks good, but now it's your defense that looks like the weak link. Now I understand that a lot of people left the defense for the draft last year, or I don't know how many people left, but you had a lot of seniors leave and new guys. But I think it should alarm you guys, you Michigan fans. The Pac-12 does not look great. Utah looked good versus BYU, and Colorado looked pretty dang good against Colorado State. Stanford barely beat Northwestern, but that's understandable because Northwestern beat them last year, and I think sometimes when a team has beaten you the previous year, I think you can when you didn't expect it. I think I think the next time you play them, I think you get a little bit tight and tense and more focused because so you don't do it again. And I think sometimes that can lead to struggles. Northwestern's a pretty good team. I think they beat Ohio State last year. Yeah, I think Stanford was trying not to lose to Northwestern rather than playing to win, and I think that's why you saw them. I think that's why it was only 17-7. USC didn't look too great versus Fresno State. Fresno State did win 11 games last year, like Boise State did, but USC normally wins those games by handily, and they did not look good. They did lose their quarterback for the season, but still, they did not look great. UCLA does not look good. They lost to Cincinnati, which makes this game versus San Diego State next week all the more important. Arizona lost to Hawaii. Oregon State lost to Oklahoma State, which is understandable because Oklahoma State's always good. Let's see here. Arizona State looked good, even though it is Kent State. Utah looked great, as I said before. Colorado looked good. Washington looked good. Stanford looked good, even though I think they might have struggled a little bit because they got tensed. Cal struggled with UC Davis, which is not good. And then obviously USC barely beats Fresno State. So yeah, I don't think the Pac-12 is going to be pretty good. And Oregon lost. I think they're in trouble once again, but who knows? It's all about how you finish sometimes, but I think Utah is definitely looking like the front runner now. Oregon is not so much anymore. Washington, I could see being the new favorite. I think Washington should be the favorite in the North as well as Stanford. I think those are the two teams that should be the favorites in the North, not the Ducks. Because I think Washington has proven themselves to be more consistent than Oregon has, and we'll just see how Stanford does versus USC next week. But yeah, and then Alabama had a slow start versus Duke. Duke's a pretty good team, but that's not a team that Alabama normally struggles with. I think Alabama played Duke and beat them 42-3, but it was only 14-3 at the end of the half for Alabama, and that should be alarming. This is a team. Alabama normally blows teams out like 55-3, and maybe they did take them out, to save them, but they definitely didn't. They definitely looked like they had some struggles. Arkansas almost lost to Portland State, it looks like. So with that being said, now let's take a look at some of the key games that I have circled. And I'll give you my thoughts on them. Week 2, the one of the games that I have circled is Clemson versus Texas A&M. Can A&M pull off the upset? I don't think so now, because of their what their lineman said. He's guaranteeing it. But I do think it's going to be a close game. Now it depends on how the defense plays, but because I think Clemson's defense, I think Clemson actually is going to be more prepared for this game than they were last year. I think they didn't quite. I don't think they quite took Texas A&M seriously enough, but last year. But I think this year they're definitely going to be more focused, and I think, while I do think it's going to be a close game, I can see it getting out of hand for Texas A&M. But I have Clemson winning 31-28. Then I have Colorado versus Nebraska, Pac-12 versus Big Ten. Both teams are coming off of big wins. Colorado has experience at the quarterback position, and Nebraska is just discovering their potential and identity. I don't believe Nebraska will have enough, but I don't think it's a blowout. It could go either way. It depends on how they start out. Expect a close game. I do think Nebraska wins, however, 34-31. But we'll just have to see how they play. I can see Colorado beating them, just because I think they're similar. Nebraska's just figuring out their potential. They had some potential last year, but definitely more so this year than last year. Scott Frost is in year 2, and they could be good this year. Colorado is also looking to rebound. They're both these two teams are both 1-0, and I could definitely see them. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Nebraska wins. And then the nice to have UCLA versus San Diego State. Now this game, the reason I think this is important is because this game will make or break UCLA's season. This is a must-win for Chip Kelly, in my opinion. It's San Diego State, yes, but San Diego State only put up 6 points in their win, versus but San Diego State only put up 6 points versus Weber State. This game could either make or break. Chip Kelly cannot afford to lose this game. I think if he loses this game, I think he's going to be on the hot seat. If he loses, as I said before, he might. San Diego State only managed, as I said before, 6 points in a sloppy game versus Weber State. I do think UCLA wins big though, but be careful because now they might get tight. But I think UCLA wins it 35-3, and UCLA better win this game. I don't think it won't be a very good thing if they lose. So then I have Army versus Michigan. I believe that this game, after watching how Michigan played Middle Tennessee over the weekend, I think Michigan versus Army, I think this is a trap game for Michigan. This is the first trap game for them. Army won 11 games last year, including their bowl win versus Houston, and is off to a fast start. Michigan has to be careful. One problem with Michigan, in my opinion, is that they get too comfortable, and that's when they lose. Michigan needs to understand that Army is a good team and possesses the power to beat them. Army's a good team. They won 11 games last year. Michigan about the same, but I think this is a game that they cannot overlook. Both teams are trying to go 2-0. One team will obviously be 1-1, and the other will be 2-0. But I think Michigan's got to be careful. I do see them beating Army, but not by much. I think 30-17. Given the way that their defense played versus Middle Tennessee, over the weekend. I think it's definitely even more so of a trap game for Michigan, and they got to be careful because they could lose. And then I have Miami versus North Carolina. This is an ACC matchup. Miami lost a close game to Florida in week 0. Can they rebound this week and beat North Carolina? North Carolina is coming in after a win versus South Carolina. North Carolina is the one with the momentum, since they're the ones with the win, and they are the home team. Miami has a good defense, but can their offense step up this week? I'd say it's a 50-50 ball game, but I say North Carolina just because it's a home game for them and they have the momentum. I think it's 28. I think North Carolina wins 28-21, and Miami falls to 0-2, and North Carolina goes to 2-0. Then the other big one of the season is number 6 LSU taking on number 10 Texas. LSU and Texas looked great this previous week. They did. LSU is a team many people are saying have one of the best shots to take down Alabama. They will be looking to prove it and show us why. Texas is trying to show the world Texas is back. If they can win at home, it'll certainly help that narrative. Texas and Oregon, though, Texas is similar to Oregon in my opinion, and here's why. Texas was one of the best teams under Mack Brown, always in national contention with their stranglehold on recruiting in Texas. Which is by far one of the best states for recruiting. Now Florida has puts more talent in the NFL, but Texas is also a great state for recruiting for football. Recently, however, Texas has found itself in the thralls of mediocrity under Charlie Strong. They had a good year 2 under Tom Herman, winning 10 games last year, and are geared for a good season. Oregon is the same thing. Really good under Chip Kelly and early Mark Helfrich. But they've been, because they were bad and relevant, but they've been irrelevant since 2016, and are looking to get back to prominence under Mario Cristobal. Texas needs this game more than LSU, I believe, as Texas is looking to get back to being Texas. I think LSU could lose this game and still be pretty good. But Texas, I think, needs this more than LSU, so I think LSU wins. I think Texas wins at home 20-17. Although I could see LSU doing the same thing. You could also see a shootout because LSU has got a pretty good offense, it looks like. And then I have West Virginia versus Missouri. This is an important game for both teams. Kelly Bryant is the transfer from Clemson, who now plays for Missouri. Kelly Bryant is trying to show that he isn't a product of Clemson's recruiting, and can produce apart from them. They lost to Wyoming last week, and even though they are on a bowl ban, it is important that they don't squander their recruiting ability. They aren't that good to begin with, but they are in the SEC, where their biggest competitions are Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and Florida. Losing more could scare the recruits they already have away. West Virginia has a new coach, and this is an opportunity to get a signature win under his belt and generate some optimism going forward. I think West Virginia gets a win, and Missouri is in trouble, 35-21. the reason why Sam Missouri is in trouble if they lose is because if in a bowl ban and where you lose scholarships, it's very easy for a team to completely fall off the map. Ohio State did not do this. USC definitely did not do this. They got their bowl bans, but they went undefeated during that time. Or USC went 11-2 or 10-2, and they kept their recruiting. They kept their recruits coming because they looked pretty good still. I think Missouri's got to focus on winning, even though they might not get to even though it's being appealed right now. I don't think they can afford to lose. I don't think they can afford to lose this week, so they don't become irrelevant. And then the last game, last but not least, I think West Virginia wins 35-21. Then we got 25th ranked Stanford taking on the USC Trojans. This is the game, in my opinion, just like UCLA versus San Diego State, that makes or breaks Clay Helton's job. After a disappointing 5-7 record last year, and already on the hot seat, USC did not look impressive versus Fresno State, who did win 11 games last year. USC did lose their starting quarterback in JT Daniels for the year, for the season. So maybe that saves Clay for another year, for another season. True freshman quarterback Keaton Slovis is going to be the guy moving forward. Because Jackson Sears is in the transfer portal now. Stanford didn't look hot either, but Northwestern did beat them, as I said, last year. So it is understandable for their performance. Sometimes you can be too focused, and it can hurt you. Stanford is and should be the favorites, but maybe they come out mentally drained, and that is USC's advantage. I don't think so, however, as David Shaw is an excellent coach. I think USC gets blown out and Clay Helton loses his job. I say Stanford wins 44-17. It's important to understand that, I think, that would certainly put dampers on USC. Do you guys think that? Do you think that the injury to JT Daniels saves Clay Helton for another year, or does it hurt him if they lose? It remains to be seen. And now I have a message for I guess it's also important that Arizona wins also. Anytime I think you fall to 0-1, I think it's important. I think every game past that point becomes important. You don't want to go 0-2, and I believe that week ones are the most important because it's really hard to. I think it's easier sometimes to. It's definitely harder to win games, but I think it's definitely harder to win games week 2 when you've lost. When you lost the previous week. We've seen teams lose the first game and then they just spiral down. They'll have their wins, but they just they go 0-1. They're starting to doubt themselves because they've had because of the build up to the game. They've had practically 3 months to prepare for their first game, and then they might get tight the week 2, so they might win that game or they lose that game, depending on who they play, and they could 1-1 or 0-2, and then they'll get their wins, but they no longer have confidence. And so I think it's important that they get their wins. Other games that I could see being this week's not as important. I guess Missouri and Arkansas are playing. It's an SEC game, but I think Washington Cal. Washington Washington I don't think can afford to lose to Cal, because that would just hurt the Pac-12 even more, because I don't think too many people are very high on Cal this year. I certainly think that people are high on Washington. I think that because they're ranked, but I don't think Washington can afford to lose this game, especially since the Pac-12 practically went 500 this week, week 1, right? Yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Four teams lost and 8 teams won. So not 500, but I think that we're in trouble though. Arizona State looks pretty good. The front runner definitely should be front runners, but Utah is definitely the favorite though. Actually, Stanford. It's just important. What do you guys think of Notre Dame? Didn't look impressive either. They struggled versus Louisville. Louisville was a bad team last year. They were getting blown out every game practically last year. Yeah, and now I have a message for the Mountain View Cougars. This is the high school that I went to. They've got a game coming up versus Roseburg, and I have some words of encouragement for them. I have I would like you guys to never be. I have a message for you, and that's to never be satisfied. You guys have a good. I'm rooting for you guys this year. Obviously, I'm going to be up at Oregon State this year. I'm moving to Corvallis, and will not be able to watch many of the games. I will, however, try and be back the 31st, the 1st of November for your game versus Bend High. But I have the utmost confidence. But I want you guys to never be satisfied. You win, never be satisfied. Don't be satisfied with the win. Look to get better. Never lose hope. 6A is pretty tough to play in. There's a lot of good teams, and last year it was a struggle. It was good, but then there was also the struggles and pains. Never lose hope. Never lose hope. If you go down two touchdowns, don't quit. Just keep playing hard, and just keep fighting for the win. That's what the coaches want to see, and I'm confident that you guys can do that. And don't lose your spirit either. If you lose, don't lose your spirit, because that's only an opportunity for you guys to get better. It only means that you are getting better. Don't lose faith either. Don't lose. Practically, never be satisfied. Never lose hope. Don't lose faith, which is the same thing as hope. And don't lose your confidence. Keep your head up, and mistakes are inevitable, but don't fret on them. Don't get frustrated. Have a short memory, and I know that you can have a good season. I'm hopeful that you guys can beat Roseburg. I think you guys will, but just know that I'm rooting for you, and I hope that you'll succeed. And thank you. So that concludes episode 1 of the of Hess Sports Podcast. Thank you for watching, and I'm sorry if I stutter a lot. I'm pretty nervous. This is the first time I've done this, and it's pretty raw right now. But I think as time goes on, I think I will get better and better at this. Let me know what I can do to improve this, and what you guys want to see more of. And if you guys have topics, if you guys have any topics that you guys want me to talk about, and or players you want me to give my opinion on, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe, share with your friends. All the support I get only helps to improve this channel and improves this podcast. I know a lot of you guys, before I end this video, I know a lot of you guys want the basketball content. I found myself really busy this summer, and there was just not a good time for me to there just wasn't a good time for me to there just wasn't a good time for me to record. And I think that this podcast is the right lane for me right now. It's simple, it's easy to do. It's hard. It's not easy, but it's definitely more suitable. It's definitely a better lane for me to be in right now as I prepare for Oregon State. And I'll definitely be doing this when I'm up at Oregon State. Yeah. Again, that's just what I had to say. I still want to do basketball videos, but I think the podcast is going to be my main focus while I do school and as we move forward. But anyway, that's it for the video. And here's how I'm gonna edit it. I don't know how to edit very much, but I do know that I want to upload this entire episode, and then I'll put timestamps. So if you wanna watch the NFL section, you can click on the timestamp, and it'll take you to where I start talking about the NFL. And then if you want to hear what I had to say about college football, you can do that too. There'll be timestamp for that. And then what I might do is if I learn how to edit, or if I figure out how I can edit this video, I might end up cutting up this video right now with the might end up cutting up this podcast, and I might take the NFL section, make it a separate video, and then the NCAA and then the college football, I'll cut that up and make that a separate video also. So you'll have this entire episode, 1 hour, or however long it is, and then the next videos will be the NFL section, and then the other video will be the college football topic. Thanks. This has been Chef 2K, and you've been watching the Hess Sports Podcast. And like and subscribe, share with your friends, and I'll see you in the next episode of Hess Sports Podcast. Thank you.